Hello, everyone. Welcome to our November topic, the importance of recycling for our Sustainability Now, All In for a Climate Smart 2025 webinar series. Almost closing to the end. It's now November, so it's been a very exciting webinar series so far. So if this is your first time joining, welcome. My name is Olivia Burns. I'm an environmental specialist with Clark County's Office of Sustainability. We're excited to have you join us today. We have two special guests with us with the Sustainability Partners of Southern Nevada presenting. Before I pass it over to Steve and Celinda to get us started on smart recycling practices, I will share a few tips to enhance your presentation experience and to help you navigate our website. First, you can translate the entire meeting page and/or the live audio into another language by clicking the Translate button and selecting your preferred language from the drop-down menu. Closed captions are also available for this presentation. Simply click the CC button at the bottom right corner of the screen to turn them on. To interact with us during the session, feel free to use the chat box next to the live stream to submit any comments or questions. If a question comes up in mind during the presentation, please drop it in the chat and we'll address them at the end. If you have any experience or any issues with viewing or hearing the presentation, please refresh your browser page. Now I'll pass it over to Steve to get us started. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia, very, very much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Steve Orico. I am the Community Relations Manager for Republic Services and one of the guys and or gals that started the Sustainability Partners of Southern Nevada. And it's always a pleasure to work with you, Olivia. So thank you again for joining us. We're going to talk about recycling. We're talking about some of the do's and don'ts of recycling. We're going to talk about wish cycling. And to get us started, I'm going to pass it to Celinda. She is our sustainability advisor with Republic Services, and she handles 90% of the tours that we offer at our recycle center. So we're going to show a video that's kind of a tour in itself of the recycle center. And I can give tours and I grade myself at maybe about a 70 on a scale of 1 to 100, because I don't do them that often. Celinda gets a grade of about 372. So we're going to let her take us through this video tour, and then we'll come back to me. I'll share some recycle tips and a little PDF of what is recyclable and what's not. And then I could also get that to Olivia and she could send that out to everybody. And then, like Olivia said, we'll have some time for some Q&A. So, Celinda, pass it to you.
Thank you, Steve. So the video I'm going to show, as soon as it pops up, there we go. Can everybody see it?
Yep, looks good.
Fantastic. All right. So the video is going to take us through what the system looks like. Ooh, that sound was too much for me. I'm sorry. All right. This happens to be one of North America's largest recycling centers. We do about 70 tons of material an hour, or about 2 million pounds a day. In the first half, or the first section of the material recovery facility, we start with metered bins that loosen the material from when the truck compacted it, to allow it for the system to be able to see what's going on. For us to get through the 2 million pounds a day, we're not doing all of the work. That system is doing all of our positive sorting, so we have to make sure that it is loose enough for the system to be able to see what material is being brought up on the line. Our pre-sort line is what you're seeing right there. Our pre-sort line's job is just to pull off large contamination issues that could damage our system. That's where wish cycling comes in. We do get a lot of wish cycling where people will look at like scrap metals and think that they're recyclable, but they're not recyclable for our system because they're just too large and they end up damaging the system. All of the residual from our pre-sort line will go to the landfill. The next up is where we're going to pull out our cardboard. For us to be able to capture cardboard, it does have to be a certain size. For the system to be able to capture it at this point, it does have to be about the size of a half a shoebox, or about 6 inches by 8 inches in size. So try not to tear your cardboard into really, really small pieces, or we could lose it to the system because it may be too small for us to be able to capture it. Now, the next section, I'm going to actually skip over just a little bit. And the reason being is because we have upgraded our glass system. And I want to make sure that you understand with our glass, we're using, as soon as it gets past the, all right, so here's where our glass starts. And I'm just going to skip over that a little bit, try to find my mark. So I'm going to pause it for just a second. So with our glass, we actually use vibration to sort our glass by size, either into a half-inch size or into a 2-inch size that we then give to our buyers. The video is an older video, so we don't have video of our new system. Once we get the glass out of the system, now we're just going to take it back over to our paper. With our paper, we're going to sort our paper by really light versus heavy paper. And the light paper is things like office paper, junk mail, where our heavier paper are our phone books, our catalogs, our paperback books. So we are able to take all of those materials. And then what our quality control does at the end of our lines is we're pulling off anything that's not the paper we're looking for, or whatever material we're looking for at that time. Now, to ensure that we have gotten all of our paper out, that's where we send it through our 2D, 3D screen, so our containers can continue on their journey while all paper products are then pulled out. Oh yeah, coming up on the next one. We don't do that. Boom. All right, so the system does get changed as we gain or lose in buyers. So the portion that I just skipped over was something that we ended up losing a buyer for probably about 6 or 7 years ago. But the video has not been updated since then. So I'm going to skip over and we're going to head over to our container line. We start our container line with using magnets. The first one is to grab any steel items, any magnetic metals. We grab those with a magnetic drum. The rest of the items will then go over to our eddy current. At the eddy current, we're going to use magnets and polar opposite magnets to move our aluminum out of the line. And then that's going to bring us down to only having our plastics left in there.
Okay, so Linda, can you pause that for 1 second?
Oh, of course. Yes, yes.
So I want to explain about the eddy current real quick. So
okay,
as everybody knows, aluminum is not magnetizable, or right? You know, you put a magnet up against aluminum and it doesn't do anything. So what that eddy current does is it's spinning like 6 million RPMs. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And what it does is for that split second, it will magnetize aluminum. And then if you could just rewind it just a little bit, you'll see some of the aluminum that's kind of like popping up and going over. So like right there and right there, that's aluminum that's been magnetized and jumps up into a chute that goes to the aluminum bin, and everything else that's not aluminum then drops down like you saw. So, and we'll talk about getting, set up to take a tour of the recycle center for those of you that haven't done that. But that's a pretty cool thing. When you see that in person, it's just, it's pretty cool if you're a recycle geek like we are, and you're seeing aluminum just get kicked over. The science behind that is just phenomenal. So it actually magnetizes that aluminum. So thank you. Go ahead, Celinda, please.
So now the only thing that we should have left in our system is going to be our plastics. We use optic sorters to determine the density of our plastics. So each one of those 7 numbers that you'll find in that triangle on the bottoms of your bottles, jugs, and tubs are a different density. What's going to happen is that light that you can just barely see there is going to come down and determine the density of that plastic. If it's the density we want at that time, then one of those puffs of air that you will actually move that plastic over the dam while the rest of them continue on. We no longer actually do the quality control for our plastics at the end of our lines, and that's because the Polymer Center takes all of our plastics, and they have 17 optic sorters to our 4, and so they take care of it. Now, what you're seeing on the screen now is the system itself and how it's run. This entire system, jump back to PET, sorry. So all of our materials will be baled into cubes. Our cubes of cardboard are like 4 foot by 5 foot in size, and they weigh 2,000 pounds or 1 ton. And that right there is paper. Paper's coming in at about 1,600 pounds per bale. Then, of course, our aluminum and our plastic are a little bit different than that in size-wise and in weight. And then here, the entire system is a state-of-the-art system. And so all of it is run automatically from a tablet that our supervisors have on hand, and they can operate this entire system from anywhere inside of our 110,000 square feet. So they have the ability to stop and start any one of these belts that we have or the machines inside of it from anywhere inside of our buildings. But should they need to, they can do it from right next to it as well. And that, Steve, is the system. Back to you.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much. And I got to tell you, it's really amazing when you actually see the facility, just the sheer volume of what we do. And so we're going to talk about like the plastics, right? So when you see the numbers on the bottom of that, like Celinda said, we take 1, 2, and 5s, right? So some of the recycle tips that we offer when you come and do the tour that we could talk about is, for example, when she was talking about the optical sorters for the plastic, for the PET, right? So if you have a water bottle, people always ask, what do I do with the caps? And you might ask this question, so we're gonna, go ahead and answer that question now. So what do you do with the cap on a water bottle? So we ask that you keep the cap on, because now that is something that will go to our Polymer Center and it'll get sorted out there. Even though the cap is recyclable, if you don't keep that on the bottle and just throw it in there loosely, it's too small to be captured. So it's going to fall through and it's going to end up going to the landfill. Also, a lot of people, if you're an outdoors person or you're just trying to save room in your recycle container at home, a lot of people will they'll take the cap off, squunch the bottle down, right? And then they'll put the cap back on. So now you have a water bottle that's about this big. And that will typically get missed by our sorter for a couple of reasons. Number one, everything's pre-programmed to say, okay, this is what a water bottle is. This is what we're looking for. And not only that, when you scrunch it down, the label that's on there is a number 4 plastic. And when that optical sorter hits that, it's going to identify that as number 4 plastic, and then it's going to kick it back out. So that's one thing. So Celinda, are you still sharing your screen? No? Okay, so.
No, I'm no longer sure. I can
okay,
if you need me to. Is there something you need me to show?
No, I'm gonna share my screen if I can. And please, I'm gonna ask everybody to forgive me because I am very technically challenged, but can everybody, I hope, see my screen? Okay, so this is a PDF that we have, and this is what I was talking about earlier that we can make available. And these are the obviously like these are the acceptable recyclables, and this is what's not acceptable. And what you'll notice, what you'll think about, like polystyrene foam, things like that. There's going to be a lot of material out there that has a recycling symbol on it, and a lot of people mistake those items for being a recyclable item, and it's not in our market here. Typically, what that identifies that product as that it was made from recyclable materials, but does not necessarily mean that it's recyclable. So when we talk about what is recyclable, we are talking about what is recyclable in our market. As Celinda had mentioned, I'm going to stop sharing here. So as Celinda had mentioned before, this is what's wish cycling, right? That's what people wish was recyclable. And that vacuum that we had when this recycle center was first built, we had a buyer for plastic bags. And that vacuum would suck up the bags, and people would pull them out and send them up the chute, and it would go through the system and go into this long plastic bag we used to call it the sausage maker. So once we lost that buyer, now it's not recyclable anymore. Same thing with like the milk cartons. So the big thing that we always tell people is that we sort, we don't separate. And what that means is when you have recyclable items, we will sort the recyclables from amongst themselves. So we will take the paper, cardboard, aluminum, tin, glass. We'll take all those items, plastic, of course, we'll take those and we'll separate them, or we'll sort them, I mean, from each other. So they go into their own separate streams, but we don't separate. And what separate is when you have a product like a milk carton, for example, that's multi-material, right? It's got some metal inside the liner, right? That's what keeps the milk, let's say, from leaking, right? And you've got that like plasticky coating on it, right? So that is a multi-material product. So we don't separate those materials from that individual item. So we say we sort, we don't separate. Okay, and that's a big difference. So that's pretty much a tour of the recycle center in a nutshell. When you actually schedule one with Celinda, obviously we go into much more detail, and it takes about an hour, and we could tour up to about, what is it now, 43 people at a time. And the age group is 5 or older now. But we do the tours Monday through Friday. Our center is shut down on the weekends. And what's really cool about this, Olivia, and I just have to say thank you, because this is perfect timing, because this on Wednesday, we're actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary of opening that recycle center. And it's pretty cool. So another fun fact is, and I put this out there as a question and something to think about. So I'm going to ask the question and give you all out there time to think about what do you think the answer is. So I'm sure everybody has seen our trucks, right? So you see the big recycle trucks that come into the neighborhood and pick up the recyclables. So pause for a second and think how long from the time it gets tipped on the floor and it gets scooped up into those bins that is at the beginning of the process, from that time there until it reaches the baler and gets processed out, how long do you think that process takes? So if anybody said 10 minutes or longer, you're wrong. If anybody said 5 minutes or longer, you're wrong. If anybody said 3 minutes or longer, you're close, but you're still wrong. It takes approximately 2.5 minutes from beginning to end to take one truck's worth and get that process through the whole system. Now, so Linda mentioned earlier about how much tonnage we do per day. Now, we are capable of doing a lot more than we are currently running through. And the issue, the biggest reason why we can't is because of contamination. And that's why we're so very appreciative, Olivia, of this opportunity to reach so many people that are interested in sustainability, because it's what's not recyclable, it's the contamination that slows down our system, because it slows down the sorting. They have to pull that stuff out. Ropes, plastic bag, yeah, we get ropes, plastic bags, different things. If you remember at the kind of the beginning, you saw those wheels turning. Well, a lot of times that will get jammed up with plastic bags or different things that are not recyclable. The system then has to be shut down, and we have to send somebody actually in there to cut loose what jammed up that system. So contamination is really what slows us down, and we're working on that. And I'm happy to say in this last year, with our community efforts and the tours that we've been doing, we have reduced our contamination, not where we want to be, but we're definitely trending in the right direction. And that's very, very exciting for us. It really, really is. And so the main thing is if you think it's recyclable, but you're not sure, you can go to our website and it will tell you what is recyclable, and it'll tell you what's not. And there'll be some great recycle tips that are also on the website as well. And like I said, you could say, I'll make that PDF available to Olivia that she could send out to everybody if you would like that. And then Celinda also touched on our Polymer Center. And for those of you that may not be familiar with that, the Polymer Center is what we call like the total circularity plant, right? Because what that will do, let me back up. For typical recycling, are we okay in time, or should we just open up for questions?
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. So typically, if you have a water bottle and you just recycle it through this process, it's going to get recycled 5, 6, or 7 times. And I don't know how many of you have ever had a water bottle, like a regular water bottle, right? If you can see this, I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but a regular water bottle. And some, yeah, there you go. That you felt like you could almost poke your finger through it, right? That is near its what we call the end of life cycle for that plastic. The next stop for that plastic is carpet fibers type of thing. But with the Polymer Center, we can actually make a water bottle a water bottle. It actually breaks it down, processes it, and reduces it to the flake. And then we take that, we put that all together, and then we sell that to a buyer. And now a water bottle can actually become a water bottle again. And same with whatever it was before it got to the Polymer Center, it could be that same thing recreated again. So that's about it that we have. And if there's any questions out there, oh, one more thing. I'm sorry. I saw a hand, but biggest fallacy, 2 things that we hear all the time. Well, you guys don't really recycle. It's just, well, you saw that plant. So now we do. That plant costs in excess of $50 million. We're not going to spend that kind of money to pretend we're recycling, right? But yet we still hear it that, oh, you guys don't really recycle. The second myth is, well, it doesn't matter where you put it. You can put it in your trash because they're going to sort it out anyway. We do not do that. If you put recyclables in the trash, it's going to go to the landfill. Now, conversely, as Celinda talked about, if you put trash in the recyclables, we will pull that out. And that's part of the contamination process that slows down how much recycling we can process in a given day. So please remember, we do recycle, and if it goes in the trash, it's going to the landfill. Now I'll turn back to you, my friend Olivia.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we had a group at the recycling center with Celinda just the other week, so it's always so much fun to see it in person, learn a lot, even when you're hands-on, especially. Um, but a big thank you to both of you, Celinda and Steve, for presenting on the incredible recycling system that we have here in Southern Nevada. I'll pull up some audience questions. We have about 6 in the chat.
Okay.
Question 1, what are the most common items people mistakenly put in the recycling bin?
Um, Plastic bags, right? Shrink wrap. So if you could poke your finger through it through plastic, it's not recyclable, right? That's how you determine that. But Celinda, Celinda, what would you? Uh,
Well, I would say plastic bags for sure. So that flexible plastic film, while it is recyclable, it's not recyclable in your curbside, but you can take it to like a grocery store and get it recycled. The reason they can recycle it and we don't is because they're not sending it through a system like we would be doing. We did the source sorting for them, and so they have the ability to recycle that flexible plastics. The other ones would be milk cartons and end of life paper. So end of life paper is like napkins, paper towels, tissues, toilet paper, all of those things. They're compostable, not recyclable. They have no recyclable value. And then a couple of the other ones we get is a lot of plastics that just aren't the number we're looking for. So there's a lot of like number 7s out there that people will look at and they'll be like, oh, it's a plastic, let's toss it in. And so number 7s get us, and styrofoam, which is also a number 6. That is also an issue because for us, styrofoam is basically, like I say at my tours, it is the glitter of the recycling world. You don't want glitter in your house. We don't want it in ours.
and then another thing too is when we talk about glass, we want to differentiate, right? So glassware, flatware, things like that's not like plates or drinking glasses. So the best way to remember that is if food came in it, then it's recyclable. And we don't have time to go into the processing of it, but just remember, if food didn't come in it, it's not recyclable glass, food or drink.
Thank you. Next question. How do you educate other states that send their recyclables here?
Well, the same way we try to do it in our market, right? We do a lot of community events. Here we run some commercials, and that's really the best way we can do it. And we have our website. We try to drive people to the website. So right now, the only other state that we take recyclables from St. George, right? So we take that, and that's kind of like the same part of the education process that we do here. Just it's more word of mouth kind of thing. Like I'll give you another recycle tip, right? Because if you hear it from us and I tell you, you're more likely going to tell somebody else and you'll remember it, right? So question, a rhetorical question, right? Are pizza boxes recyclable? 50% say yes, 50% say no. And everybody's right to some degree. And what I mean by that is if you notice on most pizza boxes now, the top part is perforated. So you rip off the top part and that's recyclable. The bottom part, which is usually greasy, if they put a liner there, it's usually all greasy, that can go in the trash. So it's little things like that, like the word of mouth on like the recycle tip. Same thing with the water bottle. Don't squish it down, keep the cap on. So it's really community events and it's one person telling another person telling another person.
Great, thank you. Next question. Are there any plans for new recycling facilities or technologies to expand what materials can be recycled locally?
Well, like we mentioned, we have our polymer center now, and it was the first one in North America. And yes, so we were very, very proud of that. And that opens up a big world of being able to take and process plastics more effectively and efficiently. Right now, it's all about a lot of it's about economics. What do we have a buyer for? So that system is capable. It can be programmed to take just about anything. It's just, what do we have a buyer for? So right now in the commodity market, right? Because paper, plastic, cardboard, aluminum, tin, glass, those are all commodities, right? So in the world of sustainable commodities, right now, those are what have viable markets for.
Great, thank you. Just two more questions. Are there any volunteer opportunities at the recycling center or any upcoming recycling events?
Absolutely, you can come up there and sweep up the foot. No, I'm just kidding. No, we don't have any volunteer opportunities there. We do offer free tours, though. Like I said, if you want to come get a bird's eye and firsthand view of it. As you know, Olivia, we do a lot of community events, so we love partnering up with different organizations, and we love volunteering out there. But right now, we don't have that capability, or well, it's not even capability. We just don't have that available.
Thank you. And last question is, how has recycling in Southern Nevada changed over the past decade? And what are your hopes for the next 10 years?
The biggest way it's changed, I guess, one of the biggest ways it's changed, as Celinda alluded to, is what we have a market for, right? When we first built that, milk cartons and plastic bags were recyclable, and now they're not. So our hope is that more better. Our hope is that there will be more markets available for the different types of items that are out there that used to be recyclable and that we know can be recyclable or can be recycled. It's just not a market for it. Our other hope too is that Las Vegas becomes more sustainability minded. We're just not there. We have a lot of people, and I think a lot of the contamination comes from, even though it's the biggest small city in the world or the smallest big city in the world, whatever. When we have people, we're still very transient. We still have a lot of people coming in from other states and other cities, and what's recyclable there isn't recyclable here, not all of it. And so it's that constant educational piece of learning what's recyclable in your market. So our hope is that we can continue to educate our community and continue to get that message of sustainability out there so we can process more recyclables and keep less out of the landfill. And as we progress over the next decade, we have the technology and we have the desire. As you know, Olivia, we consider ourselves an environmentally sustainable, responsible community partner. And our hope is that the community around us will just step up in a bigger way. And we're all in this together. Just on a personal note, I've been here since 1970, which is probably a lot longer than many of you might have even been on this earth. But I kind of take it personal. And Celinda's been here for a few years now, and she takes it personal. And Olivia, I know you take it personal. And this is our community, and we have to do better for the future. And that's the message we want to get out to everybody is we want everybody to just do better.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much. Yeah, very passionate about recycling and sustainability overall. So
And
thank you
just on
for
a side
sharing it
note,
with us.
Celinda is a sustainability geek. And if you come to the recycle center, and just be careful, because she's been known to go out in the community and look at people's recyclable. I'm just kidding. But we tell that joke all the time. Like, she'll come to your house and she'll knock on your door and say, "What's this doing in your?" But anyway, no, I'm sorry. I just had to say that but Olivia, thank you, and just really thank you, because I've seen you, elevate yourself in our community, and I'm so proud of you and so thankful for the effort that you're doing with Clark County and all the different community partners that you're bringing together. I know you're passionate about it as well, and so we thank you for your partnership in the battle of sustainability.
Absolutely, of course. Well, before we go, I just want to share just a few upcoming events that we have. So we have our Stewards of the Earth Festival that's happening this weekend, November 15th and 16th. So this is tons of vendors, workshops, and panels happening at Desert Love, which is a local nursery. I'm sorry, and it's at Cactus Joe's, which is a nursery here in Southern Nevada, where you could get native plants. And then we have our last and final webinar series of this year, which is a reflection on this year's sustainability achievements. So we're going to recap everything that All in Clark County has done in 2025. And then stay tuned for our 2026 webinar series as well. And to stay updated with our latest programs, events, and resources, you could sign up for our newsletter that goes out twice a month, and follow us on social media. But that does conclude today's webinar. So again, a special thank you to Celinda and Steve for the insightful presentation and all of your efforts that you've done. And thank you everyone for tuning in today, and have a great rest of your day.